Today we get to hear Ron Trunnell, so I invite you to open your heart and your minds and let's hear what gifts he has to share with us.
Good morning, NBC. What a thrill it is to be joining you today from the online campus. But before I go any further, I just want to give another shout out to Sloan Wainwright. Wasn't that incredible? Those lyrics were powerful, deep and meaningful, and in perfect alignment with what we're going to be talking about, where she sang, "Wake up, lay down the burden, do your part." Oh, I love it. It's perfect. So again, I'm Ron Trunnell. I'm a practitioner here at New Vision Center for Spiritual Living, typically interacting with you through the online campus since we live in Eugene, Oregon. I'm thrilled to be here, and let's get this started. Let's first talk about where we were last week when Reverend Karen Russo, as only Reverend Karen Russo can do, shared with us some powerful teachings about kind of the nature of it all. One quote from that chapter, chapter 1 of the Science of Mind textbook is, "Nature seems to await our comprehension of her, and since she is governed by immutable laws, the ignorance of which excuses no man, no person from their effects, the bondage of humanity must be a result of our ignorance of the true nature of reality." Right? So the law is always the law. The perfection is always present. If we're experiencing some sort of bondage, it is simply related to our ignorance of seeing the true reality, the capital R reality. Another quote I wanted to bring up that Reverend Russo hit on was, "God is always God. No matter what our emotional storm or what our objective situation may be, there is always a something hidden in the inner being that has never been violated." Now, I don't know about you, but when Reverend Karen Russo said that, it just hits somewhere deep inside. And I always take that to be that resonating with the truth. And so I'm so grateful that she included that, because it's as if her soul is reaching in and touching our individual souls. What a blessing that is. Remember, so this week we're talking about chapter 2, and chapter 2 is out of the Science of Mind textbook. It's called "The Way It Works." I kind of think, the intro to my talk also could have been the humming bars of "The Way We Were," because I get them confused sometimes. So if I break into song or I misstate the name of this chapter, please forgive me. But it's part of our Back to Basics series, right? And I want to first talk about that word basics, right? It's called basics because it's the foundation. It's the very bottom layer of our teaching. It's from which we build upon. But basics doesn't always mean that it's easy, right? My AA sponsor used to always remind me that the 12-step program was simple, but it wasn't easy, right? It takes some work. It takes a lot of inner work. So I always like to remember that comparison, because this teaching always is calling us forward, is always asking us to explore these concepts again and again at a deeper level. We never approach them in the same way. That's the beauty of life, because we are ever evolving, ever changing, that each time we go back to these basics, it's a rich, deepening time. And I'm so grateful for that. I don't know about you, but I can be a quick forgetter, and I have to be reminded. And I think that that is simply part of this experience that we call being a human being. The way it works points out that it's all about belief. Jesus summed up his whole teaching by saying, "It is done unto you as you believe." Ernest Holmes put it, our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle, which of itself is unlimited. It's infinite. It is entirely a question of our own receptivity. So I wanted to show you another slide here. This is the Willamette River that runs through Eugene, Oregon, and runs through many cities along the Willamette Valley in Oregon. Beautiful, beautiful river. So let's just call this, let's use our imagination, let's call this the river of life, that this is the stream of life, the stream of consciousness, and represents all that is available in this life. So one day I think I'm going to go collect some of that river of life. I want that river of life in my possession. And so I get in the car and I drive to the river. I go down that embankment. I don't fall in. Let's just put that out there. And I fill the container that I have brought with me. Now, the container I happened to pick up was a mason jar, right? And so I am down at the river and I scoop up that water into that mason jar. And I put that cap on and seal it really tight. And I rush home and I run into the kitchen and I put the stopper in the sink and I pour it out. My husband, Ken, walks into the kitchen and says, "What's that?" And I said, "It's the river of life." And he says, "That's all there is?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Well, no." "Well, yeah." The issue is that I could only embody as much as my container would allow me to. And that container is often called our receptivity, right? Our ability to be that channel to allow spirit to move through us as us. But it is always contingent on my receptivity, my availability to receive. So let's look at it another way. For those of you with a mathematical mind, of which I am not, thought plus will plus purpose plus belief. There's the equation. That equals law's reaction, bringing that sum total into being. What I put out, I receive. It has to balance, right? And so that law's reaction, bringing that sum total into being, that again ties back to Jesus, the master teacher, that said, "It is done unto you as you believe," that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, right? It's all about working on my thought, my will, what my purpose is. Sometimes I like to think of that, what my motive is, and the power of my belief. It's the sum of all of those that determines my receptivity, which then determines the law's reaction, and then allows it to be done unto me as I believe. Whew, let's just take a breath. That's a lot, right? No matter how many years I've been at it, you've been at it, there's always something more. There's always something deeper. And so I refer to that as work, right? Because it takes some effort. Doesn't mean it's labor intensive, doesn't mean it's not the most joyous thing to be doing, because in a lot of ways it is. But it takes that momentum. It takes that effort. I mean, I know that when I was brought to my knees in the throes of my alcoholism and my addiction, that there was that inside of me that simply knew that my will, as it had been applied, certainly certainly could never bring me the results that I desired. Freedom, freedom, a new way of being. As the saying goes, right? If you want something different, what? You have to do something different. That's right. I cannot continue to have the same thoughts, the same beliefs, the same container, and think that somehow my experience is going to shift. The conditions can look differently, right? But I'm still going to have that frustration, that sometimes victimization. But another thing that, I just, again, want to hit home is that the thing can only work through me. It can only work through me. And so it's really about aligning my consciousness with the truth, with the capital T of truth. Think of it, the physical law of gravity, right? It behaves the same way for everyone. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't work better for you than it does for me. So is the law. So is the spiritual law. It's impartial. It will behave in the same measure, given the same equation. As I said, I call this, that's where our work lies, right? Since I can only demonstrate to the amount or the way in which I believe, I have to take some action. I have to be willing to do something different. When my experiences around me don't mirror that which I say I want, that which I say I desire, whether it's love, whether it's health, whether it's abundance, it matters not. If my experience is not supporting those, then there's some work for me to do. Now, I want to make an important point here, is that when we experience, let's say, a health challenge, doesn't mean that I'm a bad practitioner. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad religious scientist. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad anything or that I have done anything wrong. We don't always know the ways in which this manifestation of our desires is going to take place. There's an experience that I had several years ago of having open heart surgery and feeling like I was a failure somehow. I was, there were moments of feeling punished, right? And yet, there was this moment where I could begin to smell myself, okay? So it was time for a shower, right? And I was at home then. And there was no way I could do it. Arms couldn't move beyond my side. I couldn't reach up. It was just beyond my physical abilities. And I don't know if you know me well enough to know that I can be a little stubborn, a little independent, and I want to do it on my own. Doesn't always serve. So there was this moment where I had to ask my husband, Ken, for help. I couldn't do it. And so we brought a lawn chair from outside, put it in the shower, and I sat there. And Ken got in the shower with me. And I sat there trying to reach the soap, knowing there's no way I could reach that shampoo up there, let alone wash my hair. And I was overcome with this sense of surrender. I laid my forehead into his chest and I just gave in. That was the most profound spiritual experience I have had. It was such a pure pure, absolute, soul level surrender. And from there, from that place, is where the shift happens, the change happens, that which we have been seeking starts to come forth. It deepened Ken's and my relationship in a way that I never could have imagined. It was profound. So if I was treating for love and health and well-being leading up to that operation, the conditions didn't look like this had worked at all. But it did. But it did. And so I encourage you to find that self-care, to find that loving acceptance when the conditions around you don't match. There's always work to be done. There's always another layer to be peeled away. But it's not a judgment. The law doesn't judge. The law simply says in the most beautiful way that could ever be imagined, yes, my beloved, yes. It's powerful, powerful stuff, you know? You know, I'm so grateful that I am part of this community that says almost every Sunday morning that we are radically inclusive, that we are a radically inclusive community, that we accept you wherever you are on your spiritual path, in your life. We don't care where you've been. We don't care what you've done. You are loved here. And I believe that. I believe that. And I think that we do an excellent job of welcoming those that walk into our doors or step into the online campus. I think we do an excellent job. But, you know, remember how I said that there's always layers? I think there's more. Because I can only provide, exude to the degree that I believe it about myself. So in other words, do I accept you? I think so. I think I can say, yes, I do. And yet, is there a place in me that doesn't accept me? Yeah, there are, right? There are. Now, that might ebb and flow, right? Some days I can say, yes, I'm deserving of love. And there are other days where I say, not so sure. And yet, there's my opportunity. There's my springboard for action. Not so unlike the other examples I've talked about so far, whether it's sobriety or healing from open heart surgery. It's an opportunity to go deeper. Because to the degree that I accept myself, that I am radically inclusive of all of me, frees me up, expands my container to the degree that I can be radically inclusive, radically accepting of you. It's inside. It's inside. So, you know, today I'm willing to do that work. I'm willing to always be looking at that next layer. Where is my experience not matching what my intention is or what I say I believe? It's a powerful, rewarding process. And that is how we change the world. We change ourselves. Remember, it can only work through us. We cannot experience anything in this world, in this experience, that we're not willing to be in consciousness. It's magnificent. It really is. I wanted to share another slide with you. So what do we do? How do we do it? My first suggestion, and there are many ways to do this, right? My suggestion is pause. Just pause. Anchor into spiritual practice, and practice, right? It's no coincidence that it's called a spiritual practice. Step more fully into this community through service. Whether that means giving of your treasure, whether that means giving of your time, whether that means giving of your talent. Give, start that circle, start that reciprocity. Say yes to a class. Classes are specifically designed to help expand us. Submit a prayer request. Let the practitioner course support you in what it is you want to experience. Seek the support of a practitioner, whether that means setting up a session, a private session with them, or maybe that means visiting the virtual prayer zone or the prayer zone in the sanctuary. Seek support. Again, it can be that powerful experience of surrender. Take action. Again, I said it before, that old saying of, if you want to experience something different, you have to do something different. And the beauty of that is that it's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible right now. Right now. Start today. Start today. As Sloane's first song suggested, live out the best of your life. Live out the best of your life. Make a choice. Make a choice. It's always going to come back down to, I have to make a choice. I do want to add today's reading by Mark Napo, I just adore. And I also like to remember that it's also about the times that I say no when my soul screams yes, yes. That's the power of spirit trying to work through me, trying to get me to expand that receptivity, maybe in those moments, shifting it from a no to a yes and allowing it to unfold, worrying less about the outcome and more about the gift of receiving. So I want to thank you. Thank you for this time together. And thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Thank you for doing the work you're doing. It makes a dramatic difference. This is a thriving, loving, supportive community. And how is it that? It's because of you. It's because of you. So let's all go a little bit deeper, expanding that ability to receive and knowing that our community, that this world benefits. Please join me in a spiritual mind treatment, our form of affirmative prayer. We simply recognize the truth that this moment contains everything that could ever be desired. That sweet spirit is absolute complete wholeness, absolute love, absolute divine wisdom and guidance. And what I know is that this one life is all there is. And yet I know that as I have been brought into this existence, that I contain within me that quality of spirit. And just as that is true for me, it is true for everyone within the sound of my voice and beyond. There are no limits in spirit. That we are each divinely imbued with this gift. And so right here, I claim for each one of these loved ones abundant love, magnificent, radiant health, joy, and harmony. And I know that the momentum to do that work, to do that next layer, to step in more fully, that the time is ripe, that the soil is fertile, that now is the time for this expansion. And so I say, thank you, life. I say thank you for this opportunity to step more fully, to be of service, to joyously say yes. Where saying yes fulfills my soul, fulfills the world, fulfills the community. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful. And as I release this word into that law that always, always says yes, I know that it's already done in the mind of God. It's already done in the mind of God. Thank you, life. Thank you, God. And so it is.